So I think he asked me out, my husband. And so she said, this is like, so I kind of postponed, like, dating him and stuff. But April of 1997, my mom came in my dreams. She showed me how she's under a banyan tree, meditating with lots of souls, like, in silence. And they are not talking at all. So it's almost looking like they process their life and they show you so they don't speak in that stage. They just like observing their life, like, where they could have tweaked it. That's the way I saw it. Utter silence, like, so it's a knowing she transmitted. So in that level, you don't really speak. So what she communicated was not, it's like, they call it download in India, like how computer downloads that executable software and then you run it. Same way she downloaded some information, which I could process in my own style so I could communicate. But she communicates with me like a packet of information. It's like almost like she would give me like only one thing, but it would mean a lot because of my past experience with that. Does it make sense? Like, even though it's like a little thing, like, like for information, right? Like I got a sunflower and it meant like, I was having a bouquet. It was a earthquake and the bouquet disappears. And so for me, even if by chance it's retrieved, it's important for me to go down the tunnel to make sure nothing is left. So in one packet, like I get like, so much information. So the processing takes longer for me. And it also takes more maturity because what is being conveyed is not what I'm seeing. Right. So one of the things my mom said, she kept running, and I couldn't catch up with her. And so I said, Mom, you told me you'll wait for me, So she looked back at me and she says, you said, you promised me you're going to write. That's one thing she said. And the second thing she said is, you will always earn for something. And then she disappeared. And I thought she was scolding me. That's the way it kind of felt. Like, you promised me you'll write. And then you're going to earn for something meant like almost like she's abandoning me, right? Isn't that how I would perceive at that point, like, 21 years ago, imagine, right? Like my brain. So I was very hurt when she said that. But 21 years later, after I lived with my husband and other stuff, I was in my meditation. I showed you, right? The rain falls exactly on me and stuff. So I was given another insight this week. It almost looked like I finished my first phase. Another portal has opened. What I'm getting is the purpose of my birth. Because the angels and gods doesn't understand emotions. They are neutral. On the other side, they don't understand emotions. So it's not like they're punishing. They want to have that experience through me, what it feels like to earn. So my soul took that task on behalf of God to understand what is it to earn for love. What is like as a mother abandoning, like, in death, my husband, like, being in a relationship, but like not paying attention. My kids, like, having conditional love. So that's the purpose of my birth, to understand earning. So it didn't feel painful when I understand at that level. You understand? Mm-hmm. So I said, oh, so now I get it. Like my purpose is to understand what is it to earn and how to give it to the world so they at least feel healed. So when I put it in perspective, it made more sense. But to do that level, it took me 21 years, right? It's so crazy. It's so crazy because I didn't have the same awareness I had then. So now with all my lifetime experience, I said, oh, my mom is not like necessarily threatening me. She's saying this is your purpose. So when something feels like you need to do more, look at yourself and see, is it worth it? So one of the experiments, Like, I have been having intense training for the past 1 month with my teachers, my clairvoyant spirits and spirit guides and stuff. One of the things they told me is like during meditation, I don't know whether I shared, every Wednesday I do meditation. And so one of the things they shared with me is go back 15 years, and they showed me, I was in Chuck E. Cheese with my kids, okay? They said, instruct that mother what you will tell today. That's just me, right? Like when I look back at me holding my kids, like, they are in the right, my youngest one is like, the baby, like, pulling back and stuff. I would tell that mother, take it easy. Life is not that hard. That's what I would have said. So when I was stressing today, literally, right, I don't have money to run my family today. I'm zero balance. So my husband calls, and I know the reason he calls is we don't have money in the bank, So I knew it, like, thank God, like, I'm like caught up in the way he is going to talk. Because if I get a special phone call, Holly, like I know what is coming next. So he says, what is happening? You're not keeping your boundary. There's no money in the bank. And I said, Keith, I was cheated by that girl. My Medicare payment hasn't come in, so he says, but that doesn't matter. You're not holding out to your end of the bargain. So I said, I'm going to pay a little bit every day, whatever I make, so that, it'll be caught up with the household expense. Every 16th, it has to go in. So then almost when we are hanging up, he says, like, information, honey, is there anything I can do to you to make your life better? I said, keep asking for money. It gives me motivation to work, Otherwise, like, I wouldn't bill, like, I'll take it easy. So it's so funny. But, like, I said it not with the attitude, like, I really, he laughed. He thought it was funny, but it's like, it reminded me exactly of my cousin Vinny. And, like, like he says, honey, do I need to do anything? And that guy says, keep bailing me out. I kind of, like, meant it that way. Keep me grounded, keep me, like, materialistic, because I'm like otherwise I'll fly, like, so it just like how my mom was flying, because my teacher was giving so many inputs last week. He made me go buy these pale green. Did I share with you guys? I had an insight. I need to buy rolls and rolls of this fabric.
Oh, nice.
So I went to the they call it Sophisticated in Somerville. It's a fabric store, and there's a lycra material. So I went and bought, like, plain. And 7/8 of the yard is the unit I need to use, 1 7/8 of yard. So she had this dark green fabric, like, this color. So I said, I want the whole roll plain. And I have no idea why I'm buying. Okay, it is the insight I was given, like, yards and yards. And she said it is 10 7/8 of a yard. And I was thinking, that's very interesting. I don't know why 7/8 of a yard is important. So I come here, I measure literally, like, I'll show you guys. See, why is 7/8 of a yard? And then I find out the green cloth, Lymphedema Society, non-Hodgkin lymphoma, has released non-Hodgkin lymphoma ribbon would be green in color. So that's because of DDT and environmental toxin, people are developing non-Hodgkin lymphoma. So the society has decided to adopt this color as their ribbon. So it kind of, like, so it fell into place. But the thing is, visually, when you get it, you don't have words, right? Then it falls into place. So I need to work with it, detox and other stuff, so I could understand. And that's the same thing that affects the brain, limbic therapy, bipolar, remember, mood swings and all, because everything is connected with toxins. So I measured 1 yard is 36 inches, 7/8 is 31.5, okay? And I'm going to show you, so 31.5, right? Like here,
Okay.
When I leave it like that, it extends exactly from my heart.
Oh,
so if I
wow.
aim like a bow and arrow,
Mm.
it'll be hitting the target.
Wow.
So like you could see, like, how targeted.
What made you think to measure that?
Because I was in a temple, and that night they will put this a being, energy being, to sleep. And so the priest was saying, I'm so worried that the energy will be cold at night, because at night the temple gets very cold. So he says, where are you going? I said, I'm going to the sophisticated. So he said, can you get me a little fabric so I'll wrap this energy? So I said, okay. So I bought a piece of silk, but I also bought for myself a blankie, because my kids always used to wear a blankie that time. So I wanted one to heal, like, inside. So I come to the temple, I gave him the silk. So I didn't know like it needed to be a small piece. I bought them like a yard of that material. And so this one was on clearance, 1 yard and 7/8 of an inch. So I said, okay. I said, I'll take. And it was like, probably I paid $2 or $3. I forgot, like, when they put it on clearance. So they usually sell it like, very inexpensive, $1.99 per yard and stuff. So when they have like a leftover cloth, which they cannot really sell, it will be very cheap. So I had this woolen blanket, like, it was brown, like black and fuchsia color. I'll show you guys. So when I went back this time, I said, why it became significant was when I was leaving to go out of the temple, the priest stopped me and he says, what do you have in your hand? And I said, oh, it's a personal thing I bought for me. He says, that's what I want. I didn't want the silk. I wanted the wool, because he says it looks very cozy.
Yeah.
And I said, but I bought it. Like, I really didn't want to share. I said, I bought it for me. He says, no. I just need a little piece. He said, symbolic. It's not like how we do.
Yeah.
He says, you don't need to give me the whole thing. Just give me like a little corner of the piece. I said, oh, really? So it felt like the God is sleeping under my blanket, right? That's the way I got it. I said, is that cute? And so the knowing I got from the energy was because I was saying, oh, I wish I could have you in me. God be home in the home of, like they said, I felt homeless. So I said, I wish God would, I would be the home of God. That's kind of what I was praying. So when he asked for that blankie, he's telling me he's home with me, right? Like, kind of. Then I had this intense crush on this energy. Like, I said, okay, I'm going to have you as my boyfriend. And he says, if you smack your lip, that is the kiss from me. Remember that? That was so cute. So the courting went on and on and on. Like, it was like. And actually, the interesting part is, right, I was in Northeast and I used to do paramedic training, like, because I'm a paramedic. So I used to be a professor. So they were doing a theology class, and one priest, he said, can you explain to us about Hinduism? And he was saying, I said, I'm not really religious, but I said, I can share this experience with you guys, what happened to me, this blanket. And I don't pray, but I said, even if I don't pray, I'm sucked into this energy.
Good.
And I said, I fall into love. He says, this is better than prayer. And he was like stunned at how I shared with the whole class. And he was very happy, he said, because I said, that's what the Hinduism is about cosmic law. Because each person can have your personal experience with that energy. So you are not really bound by how you see food can be your God. Just sitting and doing nothing can be a God. Like essentially it gives you a portal where you create your relationship, how you want to relate to, and the other energy matches. what we are falling in love is our other self, the cosmic self. Like we have a higher being, which is us. And we want to experience the human emotion, so the physical body. But limiting ourselves saying, I am the physical body, doesn't take into effect our human experience. So like we are bigger than who we think we are, right? Like we can influence so many things by just being an example, by talking, by compassionately communicating, making other people come true. So our energy self is huge, and we can influence, like Oprah and all, like, see, the more influential you get, the more godly you get, right? So the shift in people's thinking is what makes you a leader. And then at some point, when your leadership is truly based on love and compassion for others, you become God. So the godliness is how much of an open heart you have. Is your family small, or is your family 1,000 people or 1,000,000 people? Like Tony Robbins fed like 1,000,000 people, So the more nourishment you give, whether it's like, through mind, or then you attain like, higher and higher portal. So like you can have 25 levels of consciousness, 5 dimensions of the world, and then 43 states of mind. Like, this is 43 states of mind, because it's 5 triangles one way, 4 another way. It intersects and makes multiple triangles. So there is like, so many nuances. I have not even understood half of it. I don't want to even understand half of it. So I don't even use my brain. But the reason I did the 7/8 is I asked her to measure that blanket when I went to the store. She said it is 1 7/8 of a yard. She says, you want to buy 2 yards? I said, no, let's match the same number. And because the lowest number was 7/8, I thought, okay, that is a unit. What is significant about it? I wanted to understand. And they always say in olden days, like, see, I did share about the bow apple I came across and stuff, right? Bow apple, Adam and Eve, forbidden fruit. I went to Block Island and I found this bow apple. Yeah, they call it bow apple tree. And that is the forbidden tree. And that's because the divine bows were made, which is indestructible from that tree. And the reason gods didn't want it is because they didn't want us to have fights. So the god abandons his bow, and that's picked up by the human Sita. And she establishes order in forest. And I feel very drawn to her energy. And she married Ram. Ram is like a big avatar in India, and he is the first one who established morality. And he was the first one who said 1 man, 1 female marriage.
What was the wife's name?
Sita.
S-E-T-A.
S-I-T-A. They say it's Mama Sita.
Oh, really? I always thought that was like an Italian word or something.
Because we were all in this originally Italian. Like, see, we all came from the same African, and then we migrated. So Mexicans also sing Mamacita. 1 minute. Remember?
Yeah.
So, but she is the mother of forest, because the ancient, like Bigfoot and all, she was guardian there, and people were doing atrocious things to hurt each other. So she wanted order, but she had a warrior spirit, but she wanted like somebody to support. So when Ram was a teenager and he's being trained by a saint, and so after he was recruited by the saint to kill a demon in the forest. Her name is Taraka, because she was married to another demonic entity. And when that demon destroys, he goes and pees on prayer places and stuff. So they wanted somebody to destroy this entity. So he kills. So when he comes the kings are usually taken, the young prince, to be trained in military first. Just like how Prince Harry and William got trained in military, but that's a traditional way. So they go and live with the saints in the hermitage. So until 21 years, they have to live like a monk. Then only they can rule. That's the way the ancient kings were trained. So he goes and trains and he kills the demon, and the wife of the demon, who is very attractive girl, gets ferocious with him and gets very angry. So she becomes a demon in the end because of that. And so she was banished. And so nobody could destroy her because the olden days you cannot fight a woman, right? So God himself comes down and he, like, that becomes Ram's purpose. He was like only a teenager. So he goes and the saint says, I want you to do this task so that there will be peace in the forest. So it's almost like militants, right? So he kind of like takes the terrorism down. And then when he's returning, the Sita, the divine bow from Shiva falls in the forest. She picks it up and puts it away. And her father observes, nobody could even touch it. It is so heavy. And it was like effortless for her. So when she gets married, he makes a rule, they have to pick up that bow. Then only they can marry her. So it'll be equal strength. So when Ram comes down, they have a big contest with many kings. And he's still a prince. He's not even grown. But she falls in love with him. And so she prays to the god. She knows it's a tremendous digression for him to marry her. I wonder whether she's older than him. I mean, that makes me think now. And I didn't know because I'm now meditating with her to understand her energy. And she has this tremendous guilt too, trying to pull his attention towards her because she falls in love first. Kind of like with my husband, I had a need and I pulled him away and he's a loner, so sometimes that's the space I feel I wanted children. He was not interested in marriage. He was just interested in dating. Whereas I needed commitment, sometimes I feel guilty about that space I put him in, forcing him to marry, whereas he would have just been happy to just hang out and leave, right? Typical.
Yeah.
But at that space I wanted commitment. Now, I don't care, but at that point, I really wanted a committed relationship. But what I understood afterwards from that experience with her is she prays to God saying, if I cannot have a lifetime with him, at least give me 14 years of committed relationship. The gods are saying, why is she creating curse for herself? If she had kept her mouth shut, we could have given her a good marriage. But she doesn't. I think at some point she understands he has responsibilities. She doesn't really want his life. But at the same time, she loves him so much, she wants that space with her. So I think, in some ways, I could see me in her. I needed that space to raise my kids, nurture them. And I have to have him plugged in so they can get the father figure, So sometimes we do digress. I did put after this year, finally, I decided, I'm going to do it what is right for everybody. And he's he's his own person. I don't want him to living my way for me to be there for him. But I'm going to be there in my own way. But I don't need to shrink myself to fit in anymore. So, we have come another level. But that's why, sometimes, I tell him, Keith, I want to share this. He says, I'm not interested. If it is important to you, you share. I said, I don't need to share them if it's not important to you. So the way he talks to me sometimes he used to be very hurtful. But I said, let me just study him. Let me see how he communicates. What I understood afterwards is, I had 5 experiences that happened that day. And each file is separate. Even to hear half of my experience overwhelmed him. Like, I'm like saying, so there is no point to make him race with me. And same thing with my teacher. He was giving me so many downloads. I said, I cannot keep up with you. I said, give me a break. So like each person is doing it differently. Like I'm doing it with my teacher. He kept going. I said, oh my God, I cannot like catch my breath. Like, give it a break. Because he gave me this robe, he gave me another task, that type of stuff. So I said, I am done. And then afterwards, finally, he said, what do you want? And I said, I really want my loans to be paid off. And I said, I'm desperate. He said, I assumed that loan. And I said, what the heck you mean? But then I knew immediately, like, don't worry about money anymore. And I couldn't even look, like in energy, like, I couldn't even look up because I became very shy because he was saying, I was chewing a grass. I said, do you know I'm that grass? And like, and then afterwards, like, it was like, almost like I felt like blushing, in energy, like how he was like so intimately connected. I have never had that type of love. I don't think whether it's this teacher either. Like, my other half, that's the way he says it. He says, what you're projecting to be the female outside is 51%. But there is a male of you inside, which is 49%, which kind of makes sense. So my other side loves me so much. When I look at like the progress I made, I love me. I love me so much. Like I'm sure you guys have the same experience, right? Like what I'm talking about, you guys kind of relate to, because our inner self is so sweet, And if I think of me having a relationship with that one, I'm so happy, just being by myself. But I don't need to explain to anybody. But like when that conversation took place, I felt so honored and so cherished inside. So I feel the minute I die, that being is going to be with me, whatever it is. And I'm not going to be dancing alone, I have a company on the other side. So I'm just waiting to meet this like other half, So that's the way it felt like. But when I say this to my husband, it might come out wrong. So I don't want to say it in a way that it almost kind of feels like I don't need you anymore.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to say it that way. That's why I said, I said, what do you think I need to do? I said, keep me grounded, keep asking for money. I'm so proud of you guys.